Hi, we're here today at Australia House in London and we're protesting against the closure of 150 remote Aboriginal communities in Western Australia that has been supported by Abbott under his idea that this is a lifestyle choice for Aboriginal people. Aboriginal people in Australia are only 2.4% of the population, and it's fundamental that if any change ever happens that the rest of Australia gets behind this and stops the Australian government, state and federal, from enacting terrible human rights breaches against Aboriginal Australia.
I'm an Indigenous woman from my ancestry is back in Brewarrina, Welwyn people. I identify as a mixed race Aboriginal woman. I stand loud and proud in London, the United Kingdom, for my people back home. I want to show my frustrations towards Australia as a government. I'm disgusted and sometimes very ashamed to call myself Australian. I don't think Abbott knows, or some of the even non-Indigenous people back home know that taking land from Aboriginal people is going to disrupt their balance, it's going to kill them. Aboriginal people need their land and culture in order to survive.
I'm from London, half Irish. I feel deep-seated worry about the way the Australian government is going around things. I have a complete contempt for the Abbott administration. I feel as though there's a lack of compassion, a lack of understanding about the Indigenous communities. I feel as though this is a throwback to what was happening in the 60s. And I think that it's important that across the globe we stand up. There's plenty of coverage out there. There's been a lot of negative backlash from the English media, certainly from many of the newspaper outlets, with regards to what Abbott is doing, whether it's with regards to land grab, whether it's with regards to the way he's treating the barrier reef. This is shameful. This is not what we want to see from modern societies.
I'm here today to make sure people know what's happening back home in Australia. It's just not a case of having their land stolen, it's having their identity stolen, their culture, their history.
A lot of English people, British people would be appalled, and it would break the kind of this mental picture that people have of Australia as being this lucky country. It would completely and utterly shock people if they knew really what the reality was like in terms of policy and decision making that's coming out of the government at the moment in Australia. They'd be horrified that going to a lot of Indigenous communities is like going to a third world country, and absolutely shocking. Even when I was in Australia and people were coming from Melbourne or from Sydney and going to remote communities, they were horrified at the level of poverty in these communities, and these were Australians that didn't know anything. So if it was British people, would be mortified.
I'm absolutely appalled at this whole situation. I'm really sorry that I'm not at home, to support the Indigenous people in my community and absolutely every Australian out there that thinks this is wrong.
Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land.